Hello, welcome everyone to the Jeff and Michelle Show. Today we are very happy to present to you Trent Olsen with Towne Mortgage down in the Carolinas. Trent's got some history. You've known Trent for some time here, actually. I was introduced to Trent by my lovely wife, Miss Michelle. Trent and Michelle work together at a local lending institution up here in Long Island, New York, for quite some time. Trent loved to teach. He was very good at his home equities.
Taught me everything.
And his refinances. You know, he was a top producer in that bank. He knew his stuff. He honed his craft. And then recently, he did what a lot of our customers are doing. He relocated. So
That's
Trent,
over 2 years now.
welcome to the Jeff and Michelle Show. How are you? How's the weather down south right now?
It's going to be 86 degrees down here, and I'm going to sweat. That's about what's about to happen.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, are you on the coastal side, or are you more inland?
So I'm right in that Raleigh area. So we're about, we got a good area here, right? 2 hours from the coast, 3 hours from the mountains. Yeah. So I love it here in the Raleigh area right now.
A lot of opportunity right now.
Absolutely, it's huge down here right now. It's it always ends up on that Forbes, top 5 places to move.
Yeah. Uh-oh, where'd he go?
Oh, I think we're frozen.
He's coming back. It's all right. It happens. Technical difficulties. That's where we're at. So it's a very high thing. But here, let me ask you something. Let's jump right into it. Really, how does it work? Like, if I'm a seller, right, and I want to move to North Carolina, but my job and my everything is here. How do I qualify for a mortgage down there? What do I have to do? What steps do I need to take?
Absolutely. I think the first thing you need to do is understand your employment, right? That's the biggest thing, right? And that's if you're buying a primary residence, right? If you want to come down here and you want to live down here in North Carolina, you got to figure out, where am I working? How does that transport from where I'm living, right? Well, here's what happens. If you're a W-2 employee, right, you get paid hourly, and you're in New York, and that company has, maybe you can transfer down here, and you have a spot down here, you're probably pretty good to go at that point. You're still working for the same company, probably making somewhere around the same income. We can use that, right? Usually not the case, though, right? Someone's got to find a new job and figure out, well, what am I doing? I'm moving. Where am I going? What am I doing? So here's how it goes. You got to find a job down here. Oh. So if you come down to here, you start with a new company and you're hourly based. Let's say you make $30 an hour, right? And it's not with the same company. We're going to have an issue using that income right away, right? New York, North Carolina, 2 different areas. We don't really know if that's going to be the same. So we want to see you there for a period of time. In most instances, probably about 6 months hourly pay.
Okay.
If
it's salary a little bit different.
Some people got that offer letter, right? Yeah. I'm on, let's say May 1st, I'm going to start making $60,000 a year. Salary we can use immediately.
Ooh, that's great.
That's awesome news. So it's guaranteed. And we can even do it, right? If someone's trying to move, let's say they're selling their home, now, and their job starts May 15th and they want to get in the house beforehand, you can go under contract, use your offer letter, and then basically close on the day that you start your job.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. That's really good
to
know.
A lot of people want that transition when they to avoid that having to move a couple of different times, right? When you get a little tricky with employment, though, is those self-employed 1099. Very popular in New York because I ran into them a lot of times. All you real estate people too, 1099.
Yeah,
so we do.
That's a little trickier, right? Because real estate in New York, real estate in North Carolina, completely different. It's, you're area based at that point. So if your self-employment is based on where you live, it's not going to transfer down here. If you're a construction worker or a blue collar guy, right? Painter, something like that, it's not going to transfer down here, your self-employment. Uber and Lyft is another, big kind of stuff. Not going to transfer down here. But if your clientele base is like national, doesn't matter where you work, you can still help. Self-employment income can continue down here.
So like somebody like myself that has a team, right? And my team is based in New York. So if I was relocating to North Carolina, I can still predict my income based on my team's income because it's all ran through a business, right? So it's a corporation. I don't necessarily need to be here. So technically, we might be able to make that move, right? We would be able
That is what I heard, huh? But if you have, your business can still run without you there, and it keeps flowing, and you can show proof of that. We should be able to use that. That's correct.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Now, we know a lot of people especially with what's going on, they work remotely. So a lot of people seem to be moving out of state, getting closer to home, like maybe family, friends, something like that. How does it work if they work remotely? Can they
remotely, that's a good question. So what you got to be careful about remotely is, does remotely mean in New York, or does remotely mean anywhere in the US, right? Because I have some clients where the business doesn't want everyone to start moving away because they haven't solidified their remote situation yet.
Yeah.
So they told the guy, you're working remotely, but you can't work remote in North Carolina, which means we can't use that income here because you can't live here and report to your office in New York, right? Okay. Now, there could be ways around that too, right? Some people, what they do if they're moving down from New York is, let's say they have a lot of family down here because people have already moved down here and they're visiting North Carolina all the time, right? Yeah. Well, if you can handle it, you can buy it as a second home down here.
Okay.
So instead of a primary home, well, I'm still working in New York, but I'm down there for 4 or 5 months of the year because I have family all the time, right?
Yeah.
So that's a way around it where you can get started here early, and then eventually you can move down here when you're ready, right? But you can buy it as a second home. The other way around it is, if you have enough money, just buy it as an investment property. Get yourself the house down here now.
So it's almost like fooling the system a little bit, right? It's kind of like you can be here as long as you can swing it, right? You could apply for your mortgage, keep your employment, qualify, find the house, purchase your house down there, and then put your house in New York, sell it, and then line up what you need to down there. You know, I can't imagine someone just, maybe they do. I mean, I haven't run into it. Most of our clients have had either job transfers or, we do have a couple of self-employed guys that are like painters and carpenters and stuff like that. But like, Jeff, I'm going to go down there. I have work lined up. It's great.
Like to prepare them ahead of time.
But we haven't hit that. We haven't hit that you haven't made any money yet. You don't show anything there. Like you haven't been there. You're trying your W-2s for New York. It's not, so it's a little bit on the challenging side for those folks. But I think we just found that solution to that issue is like, all right, you have to get good enough and creative enough to find a way to qualify for both the properties or do something that way.
Correct.
Maybe that might look at like, because a lot of times we'll run into is like, Jeff, I don't have the money for down payment and closing costs for down there. How am I going to make that work? I mean, I guess they could do something like a refi on their home or something maybe, right?
Well, the biggest way that people are doing right now, so if you have a home to sell, right, and you don't want to sell your home in, X amount of days, it's going to be quick and then get lumped in with this buyer's market that's going on right now, right? So they want to keep both homes so that they can do it at their own pace. Well, the easiest way to tap into that market, easiest way to tap into that equity in the home is a home equity.
That's our favorite product.
So if they have enough equity in the house, you just take it out ahead of time, right? That's the only time you can borrow to purchase another home. So you can borrow against a residence to pay for the down payment on another home. You can't do it any other way.
We call Trent the solution maker, right? He finds the solution. He tells you all the stuff up front that you can't, not gonna do, and then he's like, hey, now here's what you can do, right?
Exactly.
That's what we do, right? That's why we love you so much, and we know you're that guiding light for people that are exiting New York. And it seems like a lot of people are starting to make that transition to go down south. Look, remote work has changed everyone's way of living, everyone's doing things, right? And they've realized, hey, look, I don't need to pay New York taxes. I can go to North Carolina, save myself money, and get a much bigger house for what I'm
and enjoy it and slow down a little, different pace.
Enjoy that southern lifestyle, that slow lifestyle you got down there. Hey, yeah, go to the beach. 2 hours to the beach in New York, and they're like, what? 2 hours? We're never going to the beach. That's too long. Right? I got to go to the beach, be there 5-10 minutes, and then I got to be back home by 5 to show houses. Right? That's me, right?
Yeah. Definitely a ton of people coming down here from New York. Raleigh area itself is, booming right now. A lot of opportunity here. Now, home prices are not that cheap down here anymore. They used to be. Where if you want to be in the thick of things, you're looking at $400,000 or $500,000 for a home right now. But people are starting to do those outskirts of Raleigh right now, which are becoming very popular. I'm one of them. I live in the outskirts of Raleigh. I love it. Still a little
It's like Long Island, right? It's like you literally
I got some room. I'm not on top of people, but it's still busy. But you're right. The taxes are still, you don't have a mortgage payment on top of a mortgage payment right there with the taxes.
Sometimes, man, I see these mortgage payments and I'm like, and I look and it's 85% tax. It's like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
The taxes here are still pretty low. But they're on the rise. They got to go on the rise. There's a lot of amenities that the government's got to build down here, and they're still trying to figure that out. But taxes got to go up to pay for it all, right? I mean, that's what they say, right?
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The seller, they're looking to sell their home. They're coming down. Maybe we've secured what they're going to do for income and stuff. What's the process? How does it look like? So they get in touch with you. They say, Trent, I'm coming down. I'm going to buy this house. What do they do? How does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, of course, everyone should know. I mean, you can do a lot of research, that pre-approval process, right? It's kind of how it starts. So make sure you talk to your lender and you understand what your options are, right? We want to get the lending out of the way. We want to say, all right, I'm confident. Trent said I'm approved up to $400,000. If I find a home $400,000 or less, I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about that part, right? The biggest thing too you want to understand with your lenders is it's happening in New York, but it may even be crazier down here in North Carolina, is with appraisals and going over asking, right? Clients have to understand what their buying power is, because if they don't, you can't talk to the agent down here, let the agent know how to put the best offer in, right? And if the agent doesn't speak to the lender, nobody's in communication and you can't do your best offer, right? And you need every little bit right now in this market to help out. So if you don't know what's going on, I can't tell you how many clients just like, yeah, I got this pre-approval letter. I don't really know what I'm doing, right?
All the time.
And that's huge. That lender's got to tell you what you can and cannot do.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing.
We just had one today. It was, we were in a bidding war, typical for nowadays, right? We have comps that are close, right? But it's a toss, like it's to the highest bidder. But luckily, with the right representation, the right legal team, the right real estate agent, the right team surrounded around them, we were able to negotiate. We got an accepted offer at one price. Appraisal came in a little shy of that price, right? But my client didn't waive any of their appraisal, contingencies or anything like that, because in this market you can't. Because what if the house tanks? I'm seeing people put 100, 150,000 on top of asking price, and there's no comps. There's nothing. So like I always tell each one of them, I said, look, you can bet to the moon, but if you don't have the money to cover the difference, your offer is only as good as the asking price. So realistically, it's a matter of, you're right, is educating the buyer, instructing them and teaching them the process, as opposed to just handing them a piece of paper and saying you're pre-approved. Because I see that a lot in this industry right now. I don't know if you're seeing it. You just said you are, right? So I'm seeing that same thing up here in New York, where I think lenders are like, I would rather just give out any kind of pre-approval just so I don't lose them, and I'll fix it when it all comes to the table.
Pre-approval letter, some people got to understand too, right? It's important what's on that paper, right? Because you get that pre-approval letter, and if you show you're only putting 5% down when you really could put down 10, but maybe you agreed with the lender, 5% fits me better. No, you put 10% down, because that listing agent's going to be like, well, they're only putting 5% down. This guy's putting 10% down. He's got more room for if something happens, right? Yeah. You got to be careful about that pre-approval. It's got to be worded correctly. Exactly. I'll tell you, my agents even have me call the listing agent. So when the offer goes in, I'll call the listing agent and be like, hey, they're good to go. Here's the amount of money. I don't tell them everything, but like they're good to go to cover an appraisal, like whatever you got to do, right? At that point.
I do that too. We CC our lenders on our offers, and we include their cell phone number, and they're on the offer, so that this way the lender knows what offer we're putting out. So when they get the phone call and they have all that information in front of them, so that this way they can say, yes, this is, and they can help facilitate you getting your accepted offer. And that's key. That's what makes it so good real estate team, right? Everybody's like, oh, when you say the team, you're talking about my team. No, I'm talking about my connections. I'm talking about my attorneys, my home inspectors, my loan officers, even the appraisers at this point. Sometimes I have appraisers where if I'm trying to put an offer in and I'm like, look, I don't know, I don't know, right? So I pick up the phone and call and hey, can you just do me a solid, what do you want? I'll Venmo you, do a desktop appraisal for me and tell me what you think it is, right? And that's kind of where we've had to take it, because I'm not going to put a client, I know how I would feel if you told me, hey, I'm putting 20% down, I'm going to go buy this house, all right? I put in this crazy offer, I'm not. It's a mental thing for most buyers. They don't want to pay over that appraised value. They're like, well, the house isn't worth it. Why would I pay it? You know?
You gotta understand. So what I tell my buyers too is with the appraisal, right? The home is not worth what the appraisal says, right? The home is worth what somebody wants to pay for it.
There you go.
Right? And if you're not going to go and sell the home in 2 years, who really cares? It's fake unless you actually make the transaction, right?
Exactly.
If you're going to sit there for 10 years, there's going to be an ebb and flow of the market between then anyway. So it's not really that big of a deal. Now, if you're a short-term investor, you're coming in here to try and take advantage of it. Well, that's a different conversation, right? If you're coming here to live and relax and live here for 5, 6, 7 years, don't worry about it, right? You just come in and you got to pay what you got to pay to get in there and then kind of worry about it afterwards.
Well, that was my conversation. I said, look, even if you guys were to say, look, I'm not paying anything, the seller didn't agree, or you guys don't meet in the middle, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if I'm going to be able to duplicate this house for the same price. I don't know if I'm going to get you the accepted offer on it. That's the issue, right? It might take 30 more offers before you get the accepted offer.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like, how much is that? Is that time worth the extra $5,000? Is the next 3 months of you hoping to find a place? Is that rent that you're paying worth that extra $5,000?
Right.
You said it right. It's like this. It's in your head. It's this false thing. It's like, look, I need a house. I want a house. I love this house. I want to buy this house. It's worth it, right? Instead of, oh well, I don't know. Look, I'm telling you, this market is aggressive, and you have to have it, right? So if you're telling me it's just as aggressive in North Carolina as New York. I know that it's Florida right now, down in Florida. It's insane. It's.
Yeah, I think there's like a 2-week supply right now down here.
Wow.
2
Yeah.
weeks. You're worse off than us.
No, it's ridiculous.
But
I mean, if you're in that first-time home buyer price range of like 200 to 300 down here, it's like good luck sometimes. It's like you got to get out there and you got to put in. I mean, one of the big things that's different down here than New York is going to be the process. Actually, is due diligence money.
So let's go over the process in North Carolina. How does that
So
work?
in order to put an offer in North Carolina, there's 2 things that go with the offer. There's due diligence and earnest money.
Okay.
So it's 2 different payments that you give. The due diligence is basically money you give to the check gets written out to the seller and it's cashed right when the contract is signed. It's their money. It's gone.
Okay.
Due diligence basically states, thank you for taking your home off the market. We now have 14, 21 days to do our due diligence, appraisal back, inspections back, get the loan approval in, right? But that's basically telling the seller how serious you are. So it is very, very common for somebody to say, give 10% in due diligence. So $300,000 home, $30,000 due diligence, that money's gone. It's to the sellers no matter what happens in that transaction.
Holy moly.
Wow.
That puts a lot of pressure on you, my friend.
That's what's winning offers, right? That's what's winning offers is that due diligence, I think, a lot of times. And people get nervous. Oh my God, that money's going to the seller right away. What happens if the house is going to fall down and I missed a structural problem, right? Well, there's some things protecting you where if there's a known issue, they got to disclose it to everybody else. If you back out, most likely they're going to try and fix it, right? Because they can't sell the home with a structural issue. So usually you can work that out.
Yeah.
But people get nervous. People get nervous putting down that due diligence, right?
I'll tell you now, I would be a little nervous. Like I'd be going to my loan officer. You sure I qualify? You're 100% sure?
Oh, and that happens all the time.
You're paying me back my 30.
No, and that happens. And a lot of times I tell my agents, look, if they're going to go in crazy with a due diligence, call me. And let's just like recheck what's going on here and like 100% double check that you're qualified.
Yeah.
The earnest money is just due diligence period ends and the earnest money actually gets held in escrow by the attorney usually. And that's just, hey, I'm still interested in buying this house. Most people don't even give much in earnest money because they're so deep into the transaction with the due diligence, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It also shows the buyer if a short appraisal comes in, I'm not leaving because of a short appraisal either because I'm $30,000 in, right?
Yeah.
So that due diligence, that upfront money is huge.
So I'm a little so when you say due diligence, right? So if they're putting, say I'm pre-approved for 300, right?
Yep.
I put 30 down.
Yep.
Right? That's my 10%.
Yep.
That's my due diligence. But that goes magic right to the seller. But I'm taking a loan out on.
So that due diligence counts towards your cash. It goes towards your cash to close. So if you're putting 10% down, all of a sudden that your due diligence covered your down payment.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. So it's not on. Yeah.
It was a little confusing.
Okay.
It's not on top of the money that you owe for closing, but it's just upfront money that some people may not even have sometimes to even win the offer, right? If you're a first-time home buyer and you're trying to put 3 or 5% down, you may not have 10% due diligence, so you don't win an offer. That's what it's come down to.
Yeah, it's about right.
Now, what does the mortgage process look like? Up here, obviously, it's 45 to 90 days, give or take, depending on lending institutions.
Yeah.
Like that in the Carolinas.
So the biggest difference that I know, and I'm not 100% familiar with New York's mortgage process at this point, but the biggest difference is I think a title company does the closing for you guys. The attorneys down here do everything. So they do the title search, they procure title insurance. So I've done closings in as fast as 22 days.
Whoa, that's fast.
Yeah.
And that's a mortgage, right? That's the whole mortgage process, not just.
That's it. Yep. Standard time, 30 days is pretty normal. You got to go 30 days or less in a lot of times.
So you hear that, people, right? So listen to what he said. He said it takes 30 days. So that means that before you go down to there's some steps here that we need to be. You're relocating down to North Carolina. Step 1, get in touch with the realtor. Step 2, and call us, right? But step 2 is obviously start before you even think about putting your house on the market. First, come up with the value of what your house is going to be. Then get in touch with your loan officer that's going to be handling your purchase down there.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're solid, right? So then if we're going to sell your house, that means that we have to put your house on the market, okay? Because just answer this real quick. Is it on or about down there or on or before in the contract? Do you know?
So are we talking like contingent type offers?
Yeah, so like up here, if I put an offer in, right? If like a buyer puts an offer in on my house and say we're going to close, usually it's 45 days to commitment. It's a standard contract. And then after that, we usually go 60 days. And then that's our on or about date, meaning that they get 30 days before to close or 30 days after that date to close.
We just set a closing date. So if you go under contract today, you say 30 days, May 7th is the close date. That's it.
Oh. So
now, and then if you want to change the close date, the seller's got to agree to it. If they don't agree to it, too bad. Now there's 14 days built into the contract where you can go beyond the close date without being in breach of it. But after those 14 days, if the sellers don't want to move the closing date, too bad.
So it's going to take a really good team, right? Because this is why. Because if you're relocating down south, you need an agent here in New York.
Yep.
You need an agent here in New York, not only that can get your house sold for, everything that you want, but you also need them to have the connections down in North Carolina to set you up with the banker, with the realtor down there, with someone that can help facilitate the entire move, right? Because what us realtors do is we help facilitate that. We bring you all together. We're like the people that help you, right? Everybody comes to us like, what do I do?
You're the quarterback. You're throwing that pass out to everybody, man.
So it's like, all right, we come in, you give them a detailed plan. So pretty much that on or before date is what is going on in North Carolina. So we need to be very, very sure that your buyer is going to close on time. If we're trying to do a simultaneous close, if you need to sell to buy, that means that we're going to have to be very specific with the seller down south or wherever you may relocate to say, hey, look, we're selling in New York. We want to close on this date, but that buyer could get extended out another 30 days. So I need some room. That needs to be something that's negotiated. And with the market the way it is, that's going to be something that's going to be an obstacle that's in your way. So we don't like when you're in competitive markets, the more contingencies, the more things you put on, it's likely you get an accepted offer.
Yeah.
So
I mean that contingent, you're right. That's a big topic right there. Is sellers down here are not taking contingent offers. It's why when you got 10 other offers that are non-contingent, why you even if they're a little bit less, let's say a couple grand less, why are you going to take the risk of that home not selling to get in here? That's why that home equity becomes super important.
that's what I love it. That's a solution to that.
Now,
You can do that.
Trent, do you do home equities in Carolina as well too, or no?
Well, I don't do the home equities, but talking about teams and people to help you, I have trusted bankers down here in the actual banks that work with us all the time, that know the process on how to get it done, that can get them done very, very quickly down here. Don't know if they're able to get the process done anywhere.
connections up here because we built
I was like, why is she asking for home equities down there? I'm asking later on. I'm later on. I'm like, you're the home equity queen. That's what you used to do. You should be phone calls, right? But
up here we have all the connections, but down there, so up here, if you need any of that, I definitely have tons of connections up here.
Yeah.
So what is we've pretty much gone over quite a bit, right?
Thank you for all your great
Thank you for everything. But what is like what would you say is the most important part for a seller that's selling anywhere that's looking to relocate to a different state?
Yeah.
What's the most important part?
When we touched base, I think in the very beginning, it's where is your income coming from, right? That's going to be huge because I'll tell you, people call me and then don't have a job lined up. And I'm like, there's nothing we can do at that point. So one thing you may want to do is you may just want to sell your house. And if you're not familiar with the area, come here and rent for 6 months, a year, and just understand the area first. Yeah. And that'll give you time to get you in your job or whatever it may be. A lot of people, I did that. I mean, I rented down here for 6 months. I never lived down here in my life. Rented for 6 months, had a job down here that was salary based and said, all right, now I can go buy a home. I understand the area a little bit more. If you already have family and stuff, some people, what they do as well, if they have family, you can come down here and you have somebody co-sign with you that has the income to cover everything. So you can get a co-signer if you're blessed enough to have family that can help you that way. Yeah. A lot of other people too come down here from New York, sell their home and want to buy homes in cash, right? Not always advisable. And the reason why is that rates are so low right now that you have a lot more potential with that money outside of your house. I'm not saying don't put a large chunk down. Maybe you finance half of it, right? Yeah. And take 150, 200,000 and do something else with it. Supplement retirement, do something, go travel, right? You can better off spend it that way. Cash is not always the best way to do it. Yeah. So keep that in mind too, that you don't want to use it on your house all the time.
When interest rates are low, man, take the free money, right? That's what I always say, right? Just if you're going to give it to me, I'll take it if it's a reasonable interest rate. I'd rather put my cash to work in other investments and, use that other money or make that even, there's so many different ways to go. You could even take that cash instead of buying one, buy two and get an investment house.
You do something like that. Some people do that as well. You're absolutely right.
There's a lot of different ways to do it. Yeah. So Trent,
what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way is that cell phone, which is still a New York number.
631-6668. That's how we get in touch with Trent Olson. He's again a mortgage loan officer with Towne Mortgage of the Carolinas.
That's right. Google me, search me up. Plenty of reviews on there. I swear I know what I'm doing. I swear.
Yeah.
I vouch for him. He knows his stuff. Trust me.
And he helps you through the whole process and start to finish.
And he also is a really, really good dancer, aren't you?
You see me spin. You see me.
Trent gets in, man. He got it. He got moves. He got it. So after you close, he'll give you a good dance, right?
That's it. Yeah, dance and drinks, I'll tell you.
There we go.
That's awesome.
Trent, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Packed information. We're so happy. Again, if you want to get in touch with Trent, give him a call on a cell, 631-655-6668. Thank you so much. And if you like what you see, like and subscribe. And we can't wait to see you next time.
Great. Thanks, guys.